Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to this session on Okta. Okta, as I think you've probably read in the Vice President's update and in some other things we've sent out in the last week, is a new application that's going to be rolled out next week. Next week's rollout is a partial rollout. It shouldn't change a lot of things, but we wanted to be sure everybody was aware of what's coming and what it's going to look like. So I'm going to walk you through a few things. If you have questions as we go ahead and type them in the chat, and we'll try to answer as we go and collect everything we haven't answered at the end. So can you hear me a little better now? All right. So thank you for letting me know. The first question we're going to talk a little bit about is what exactly Okta is. And as I said, it's an application. And it does two primary things. One of them is something called single sign-on, and the other one is something called multi-factor authentication. So the first question you may be asking is, what exactly is single sign-on? When you go to most web applications through Iowa State University, you'll see something that looks like the image on the right. It's usually will have the red bar at the top. It may say single sign-on for the web. It may say ADFS, and it'll ask for your NetID and password. That lets you sign into a lot of applications and lets you just use your NetID and password and not have to have a different login for everything you log into. That includes things like CyBox, like MyExtension, Qualtrics, Office 365, etc. Starting March 1st, you're going to see a different page when you sign in, and it's going to look like this image on the right. That will be Okta, and it's going to handle what we call the identity management for those applications. That's going to be really simple. You're going to type in your same NetID, you're going to type in your same password, you're going to click sign in, and you will be signed into whatever application you were going to. The first time that you log in through the Okta sign-in, you will be asked one additional question, two additional questions really, and that will be to provide a secondary email address and or a secondary or a backup phone number. The purpose of this is because Okta does actually add another feature which allows you to reset your password if you need to. If you forget your password or if you have an emergency reset for whatever reason, you can go and say, I need to reset my password, or I've forgotten my password, and it will either send you a code via your phone or through email. You can skip that. You can either enter that information that first time you log into Okta, or you can just say, I don't want to do that right now, and do it later. And we'll talk a little bit about where you can do it later as well. Once you've gone past that screen, it's not going to ask you again. So that's what's going to happen March 1st, is the single sign-on change. The other primary piece in Okta, and something we're actually kind of excited about, is something called multi-factor authentication. And in some of our security webinars, we have talked about multi-factor authentication before. And one way it's commonly referred to is that multi-factor authentication takes something you know and something you have and uses both of those things to log in. The something you know is your NetID and password, and the something you have is your phone, the ability to get text messages, or an application. Excuse me. What this does is it adds an extra layer of security. So if your account is compromised by someone in a foreign country, they still will not be able to log into your account because they will not have your phone, they won't have your phone number, they won't have the specific application. Currently, MFA or multi-factor authentication is going to be optional. You can enroll if you want, but you don't have to. Eventually, it's going to be required. We would recommend it because it does help protect your information. One of the things that makes it more usable for all of us is that you will have an option to say, I've logged in with multi-factor on this specific computer. Please don't ask me on this computer and browser anymore. So it's not that you have to use it every single time. You have to use it every time you log in from a new browser or a new computer, or every time Okta thinks you're logging in from a new browser or a new computer. One of the things that Okta does is it allows you to choose several different kinds of authentication, and the hope is that this will cover most of the options that people have. There are two applications that you can get on your phone. One is called Okta Verify, one is called Google Authenticator, and I'll show you in a minute what those look like. You can also opt to get a text message. That means that even if you don't have a smartphone, you can still do multi-factor authentication. You can opt to have it call your phone. So you say, here's my phone number, I want a voice message. Okta will call your phone and give you a code over the phone. And then finally, there's an option called a Yubikey, which is an actual small physical device that you would plug into the USB port on your computer, and it would generate a code to let you log in. Generally, we recommend that you use more than one, and the reason for that is that, let's say you have Okta Verify, and that's your only multi-factor authentication, and then you sort of forget that and you go and get a new phone. Okta Verify is designed to work on the phone that you've set up the application on. So if you lose your phone or get a new phone, you don't have any way to authenticate. If you have Okta Verify plus text messaging associates with your phone number, so if you get a new phone, you can still get a text message and verify and log in. The Yubikey is designed for people who either don't have a phone, don't want to use their personal phone, or have other issues, and there's really not another sort of multi-factor authentication that will work for them. I do want to point out that when you go looking for Okta Verify in the Google Play Store or on your iPhone, there are two applications, Okta Verify and Okta Mobile. Okta Mobile is not the multi-factor authentication application. It's simply a way to use the Okta dashboard on your phone. So if you go to the Play Store or the Apple Store, you will see Okta Verify. It's going to look like this. You can install it. On the Apple Store, it looks like this. If you notice right below it is Okta Mobile. That's why I wanted to point this out, because it can get a little confusing. Google Authenticator is another phone app that you can use to authenticate your account. Google Authenticator on the Google Play Store looks like this. On the Apple Store, it looks like this. You can enroll in Okta anytime. Everyone is going to need to enroll on March 1st, but you could enroll today if you want to. At this time and through a date that's yet to be determined, you can choose to opt into multi-factor authentication. And we do recommend that, but I know not everybody will be ready to do that right now. You can choose currently at this stage to access your apps through a dashboard in Okta, or to just continue to access them the same way that you do now. You will, if you install before March 1st, be asked to install a plugin for your browser. It's a very simple install. Okta walks you through it. It just says, click here to install the plugin, and go ahead and install it. I'm going to go ahead and do a little demonstration, take you into Okta so you can see what it looks like. But before you do that, oh, Barb has a question. So currently, yes, you have to sign in separately for each application. Once Okta rolls out as your single sign-on, that will not necessarily be the case. Okta provides you with something called a dashboard, and you can use the dashboard to go and log into those applications by clicking on what's called a tile in the dashboard, and it will then take care of the logging in for you. And Sandra asked about, is it recommended to sign out of Okta before shutting down your computer? Honestly, I haven't played around with that. I don't log out, but it does have a timeout. I think it's 10 hours. Other questions from what we've talked about so far? Or shall we go on and do a little demo? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this. So this again is what the screen looks like for Okta, if I'm going to sign into Okta. And if you notice, the login is very simple. It's login.iastate.edu. You really only need to know this if you're going directly to Okta or if you want to enroll before the March 1st. So I'm going to go ahead and log in as me because then I can show you what the tiles look like. And I have it currently set to ask me to verify each time. And so if you notice, I have several authentication options set up. Okta Verify is the last one I used, and so that's what it's going to come up and ask me. I can ask it to send the push automatically, which means just go ahead and do it when I try to log in, and then I don't have to click on the push button. I can also tell it not to challenge me on this device again, and that means I don't have to verify every single time I log in. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to send the push, which sadly you won't be able to see. And when I get that on my phone, what I have to do is just type approve, and then it sends the signal back here and goes ahead and logs me in. Now, as you can see, this is because I'm on a new computer and not on my own computer. It's come up and told me that I need the plugin. If I want to install the plugin, I can just go up here and click on Install Plugin, which I guess I will go ahead and do. It's actually probably not going to show me this piece because I think I have to exit the browser and go back in. And I don't want to do that right this minute. But this is what the Okta dashboard is going to look like. Yours would look a little different because it's going to depend on what apps you have decided to put in the dashboard. But if I am in the dashboard, then I can simply click. I think I used this as an example before and it didn't work. Oh, because I don't have the plugin installed yet. If I want to add multi-factor authentication at this point, if I haven't already added it, I would go click on my name, go to settings, and there are a couple things I want to point out here actually. If we scroll down, you can see that I have a secondary email. That means I have filled out that piece that it wants to ask you of whether you have a secondary email to reset your account. I also have a phone number in here. That was from that question about asking me for a backup phone. And if you notice, it says, okay, if you say you forgot your password, this is where I'm going to send the information. Or I can send it here. Extra verification is what we've been talking about as multi-factor authentication. And I showed you before we logged in, I have several things set up. I have Okta Verify set up. I have text message code set up, and I have voice calls set up. The two that I don't have set up are Google Authenticator and Yubikey. If you set it, I'm not going to actually set this up, but I'll at least click on the button. It'll come up and ask me what kind of phone I have. It's kind of a blast from the past that it thinks I've got a BlackBerry. And then the next thing it's going to ask me to do is make sure I have Google Authenticator installed. And then what it will do after that is it comes up and gives me a code, a barcode, and it basically I go into my Google Authenticator app. It will turn the camera on and just ask me to scan that code. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And the other setups are very similar. If I set up the text message code, it comes up and says, okay, I'm sending the code to your phone. Type it in when you get it. If I want to add more applications to this, and this is a place I can add the things that I use fairly frequently, I can go to this Add Apps button. The apps you want to pay the most attention to are these that say Apps Managed by Iowa State University. These are the ones that are actually going to use your NetID and password. And if we look down here, you can see lynda.com. Some of these you may or may not have access to. Some of these depend on whether you have a license or not. Some of them are available to everybody. So you need to go by what you're actually using. But there are also a whole lot of applications over here that you can also add if they're applications that you use. I would kind of caution you about, you can add things like Facebook and personal applications. The one caution I would give you about that is that if you're putting personal applications in here, be sure you have someplace else that you know what that password is, because if you ever leave Iowa State, all those things are going to be lost to you. So that's pretty much Okta. Questions? I mean, that was a pretty quick demo, so we have plenty of time for questions. We are recording it, so we will get the URL out, so people that weren't able to attend, or if you want to watch it again, you will be able to do that. Jean, we don't have, you'll be required to use Okta to sign in on March 1st. But the requirement to use multi-factor authentication, there has not been a date yet. Some of the discussion right now is that there will be a date where all new employees will have multi-factor authentication turned on automatically. But that still will not be the date by when everyone will need to use it. If you don't do anything now, you will not have to do anything on March 1st. The only thing that will happen on March 1st is that you'll see that new sign-in screen. You'll go ahead and sign into that, and it will come up and ask you for your secondary email and phone. Once you've either entered that or skipped it, you'll go on to whatever you were trying to log into. Should work fine on iPads and cell phones. You'll see the same sign-in screen. You'll go ahead and sign in, and it'll sign you in just like it with your same NetID and password. Same for cell phones. You will not see Okta if you're using, say, an Outlook app on your cell phone, but you will see it if you use something like CyBox through single sign-in. Yes, so it's March 1st, they've changed things over. You go to the same URL you've always gone to, you will see the new sign-in screen. Does that make sense? In theory, March 1st should be very easy. We all know that in technology, everything doesn't work easily, but that's our hope. But we also want people to be aware that that sign-in screen look and feel is going to be different, because I know that people are aware that sometimes you're taken to screens that aren't official ISU screens. We want you to know that this will be an official ISU screen. And remember, if you have any questions, the hotline is prepared. You can always call the hotline and say, I'm not sure what I'm seeing and I'm not sure if it's right. Can you walk me through it? That's what we're there for. For accessing email through Outlook on your computer, there should not be a change. My understanding is the only time you might see a change is if you're setting up Outlook on a new computer. And actually, if you don't have multi-factor authentication turned on, you still shouldn't see a change. Other questions? And if you think of a question later, just email EIT hotline and we'll see what we can figure out. Some of this, we aren't sure exactly how it's going to look yet. We're enrolled, Stephen and I are both enrolled in Okta, and most of EIT is. But until it actually rolls out widely, we're still not entirely sure how things are going to look for everybody. So then we may have a surprise, but we hope we don't. Anything else? Okay. Thank you for coming. If you use multiple browsers, you will have to install a plugin for each one. And when you turn multi-factor authentication on, it will ask you to authenticate. If you authenticate to, say, Firefox, but you haven't yet authenticated to Chrome, you will still have to authenticate to Chrome. So it treats browsers like they're separate devices. Good question. I don't see anybody typing, so I think we're going to go ahead and say thank you for coming.